I stand before you today wearing three hats. One hat is a former selectman. I've been a former selectman for a week now. Another is a citizen of Hopkinton. And another is a Vietnam veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Of the three, the one of which I'm proudest is my service to my country. My wife Karen, who I dated in high school and was my dearest and closest friend, when I'd go up to the town hall for Board of Selectmen's meetings, she would offer me one piece of advice, and I tried to heed it most times. She always said, whatever you do, don't embarrass the family and try to do no harm. And I think I probably did both of those things in most cases. My little part, which is going to be relatively small, will be more appropriate to Memorial Day. In my office, for those of you who've known me for 40 years, when I had an office, I have a picture frame on my wall and it has three names in it. These are three names of three men that served with me in Vietnam that actually were in my platoon that died. They were the oldest one, 19 years old. Through my whole life, whether it was teaching school or raising my kids or just about everything I did, I tried to live my life as though they would have wanted to live theirs had they had the opportunity. They were just out of high school and they sacrificed their lives for our country. And none of us can minimize that. They all left families, they all left girlfriends, they all left brothers and sisters, and that was 40 some odd years ago. And I can still remember them, and I can see them as I stand here today. The one thing I'd like you to remember, and I'm going to say it at the beginning, and I'll say it at the end, and it will make sense to you, is Section 60, Site 8,748. One of the honorable opportunities, I guess they were all honorable if you could say a selectman was that, was back in January. I had the opportunity to go down to the Arlington National Cemetery and be there for the funeral of a gentleman that died in Afghanistan at the age of 33. Brian Mescal lived up in Joe Colola's project. For those of you who don't know it, that'd be up Teresa Road. For a short time, his family, his sisters grew up and went through our high school. They now live up closer to Lowell. But Brian was a major in the United States Army and was killed by a roadside bomb. We went to the service primarily because Brian was from Hopkinton and secondarily because it was the right thing to do. The funeral services were in Alexandria, and the cemetery, of course, was Arlington National Cemetery. The distance from Alexandria to the Arlington National Cemetery is 6 or 7 miles, and the motorcade was probably a quarter of a mile to a half a mile long. Everybody along those streets, going through Alexandria, approaching Arlington National Cemetery, stood by the side of the road at attention as Brian passed. And it occurred to me that they were doing it for Brian, but they were also doing it because it happened all too often. They were doing 3 or 4 a day, and these people were just paying tribute to soldiers that had gave their lives in the cause of freedom. Brian had a son, 9 years old. I met his son, I met his wife, I met his mom and dad and his sisters, and they were all proud that they were from Hopkinton, and they were all thankful that Hopkinton sent their warm tribute. Brian was buried at Arlington, and for those of you who have never seen it, it's an incredible ceremony. And it was a gray, cold day in late January, and I can recall, just like we had before, jets flying over, although they were flying over from Reagan National Airport. And the Army did their usual incredible job during the ceremony. And Karen and I were very thankful to be able to represent the community at Brian's funeral and burial. Now, what does Section 60, Site 8,748 mean? That's where Brian is today. He's in Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery, Site 8,748. Should give you some idea of how big it is and however many of our heroes are buried there. So I invite anyone in this great community of Hopkinton who are visiting the DC area to go to Arlington and say hello to Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie. Memorial Day, 2009. It's a day to pause, it's a day to remember, and it is a beautiful day. Today we have the added honor of coming together to celebrate the completion of a new and improved Veterans Memorial Gazebo. We see lush new landscaping, a beautiful new and larger gazebo. It's ADA compliant, and thus it is accessible to all. We are enjoying an enhanced new sound system. We will enjoy the evening lighting. We see the colorful new flags donated by the American Legion to signify the branches of the military services, all coming together to create a vibrant and inspiring icon for the town of Hopkinton. The scenery will continue to evolve this summer. We will install railings and we will get some grass growing. According to the booklet from the dedication of the original gazebo, it was during the war years, 1941 to 1946, that the citizens of this town held several fairs to raise money for their servicemen and women. As the veterans returned home, each was given a check for a mere $23. Many wanted their portion to be used to establish a war memorial building fund, and Ernie was part of that committee. For many years, the funds grew, and in the early 80s, it was finally the right time for the memorial to be built. The Veterans Memorial Gazebo was dedicated on Memorial Day in 1988. And in 1995, a plaque was added to recognize my father's contribution in making it a reality. To those that gave the ultimate sacrifice while serving, to those that have since died, to those that serve today, and to those that will serve in the future. We are a better nation and a better community because of you. Today, the citizens of Hopkinton proudly dedicate this new and improved gazebo to the veterans of Hopkinton. We honor, we salute you. May God bless this Veterans Memorial Gazebo, and may God bless America.
I would like to thank everybody for coming out here today.